Hello and welcome back to Purple and Gold Zone episode number 6. Super glad to be back. I hope you guys all had a great holiday season. I apologize for being a little bit late to come back. I honestly meant to do an episode last week and then I got super busy. Specifically, that transition back to Hawaii from Nebraska was a little bit of a big one. So I was just transitioning back and getting back into work and, busy this, busy that, getting my fuel line in my car cut, getting my mom's car stuck in a mountain pass. Come on now, I was doing it all this last couple of weeks. So that being said, though, we've got a lot of Lakers stuff to get into. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And no, this is not well beyond the arc. This is Purple and Gold Zone, but there's plenty of good, bad, and ugly when we talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. Unfortunately, I'll give you guys a little bit of a secret. There's more bad and ugly than good. But anyways, that being said, before we get into that, I would love to plug a couple of my other projects to you guys, as well as a couple of other things that a couple of my co-hosts do. The first thing I like to plug is the Connor and Heffernan show. Me and my buddy do that. We kind of go bi-weekly, and we are actually currently releasing our next episode this next weekend. It is going to be a NFL wildcard preview episode where we also focus on other topics such as Derek Carr and who's going to replace him, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. We'll take either of you at this point. But anyways, so tune into that to watch a playoff preview as well as some other NFL news that will be dropping this Saturday. Make sure you subscribe to the Connor and Heffernan Show YouTube channel to catch not only Purple and Gold Zone, but the Connor and Heffernan Show as well. And then also check it out on Spotify. I've found myself really enjoying listening to it. I listened to it on the plane ride back. I listened to it, the episode we had just done, and it was really enjoyable. That's a show where we talk about a bunch of different topics. You can go through the segment list and see which segment you want to listen to or watch. You don't have to listen or watch the whole show. It's about a 2-hour show, a little bit less. We go about an hour and 30 to 2 hours. Come in, watch the whole thing, or just watch some of it. Either way, it's going to be great. And then Well Beyond the Arc, super fun. Lots of fun doing that show. We have super fun weekly segments like NBA Player or State of My Squad and Good, Bad, and Ugly. We go live every Tuesday from 6 to 7. We're both pretty busy, so that's kind of dependent on schedules. But for the most part, we're 6 to 7 every Tuesday. We are live on YouTube. That is Central Time. And speaking of that show, it is on the Yankee and the Brit Sports channel, which has so many fantastic things. I absolutely 100% recommend tuning in. Not only is there an MMA show, an NFL show, you can see documentaries, you can see interviews. There's so much on the Yankee and the Brit. Make sure to subscribe to that channel to keep it growing. And then my co-host Manoli from Purple and Gold, or excuse me, from Well Beyond the Arc, he has a blog called the Sports Blog Page, and he does so many great articles, so many great blogs. Check that out, please. That is the Sports Blog Page. Make sure you check that out. But now, without further ado, let's get right into Lakers basketball. The Lakers are currently 19-23 and sitting at 13th in the West, and they are 6-4 in their last 10 games. Now, the first thing I want to say is I really like that 6-4. Despite anything else I say this episode, despite what I say about their last game against the Mavs, I really, really, really like that 6-4 record because that is a winning record in their last 10. And AD has been out. AD, of course, as we know, Mr. Glassman has been injured once again. The good news is the hope is that he will be back with plenty of time for the playoffs. The hope is that he will be back before All-Star break, and I highly believe that that is a possibility. So once they get him back, the hope is that that will just help them progress even more. But at the moment, I mean, 6-4 in the last 10 is not bad because you look at teams like the Jazz, who are 9th. They're 3-7 in their last 10. You look at teams like the Clippers, who are currently 5th. They're 3-7 in their last 10. And then the Suns, who are currently 7th, are 2-8 in their last 10. So teams that are above us have had less success than us in the last 10 games. The only difference, the only problem we have had is we dug ourselves into a hole. We dug ourselves into such a deep hole. Rob Pelinka and Jeannie Buss got the shovels out and they're like, come on, guys, let's dig ourselves into the biggest hole we can dig. And that is what they did. That's the exact thing that they did. We dug ourselves into such a big hole at the beginning of the season that digging ourselves out, getting out of this hole, is going to take longer than I would like and probably what most other Lakers fans would like. But as long as we dig ourselves out, that's all that matters. So 19-23, is it perfect? It's far from perfect. Is it 500? It's not far from 500, but it's not 500. But we are on the right track. We've had some great performances. We've got a rough one now. We've got a rough one to talk about. The most recent Lakers game, as I'm recording, was the Dallas Maverick versus Los Angeles Lakers game. And I want to break that game down because that, to me, highlighted the best parts of the Lakers and also the worst parts. So let's get right into that Dallas Mavs versus Lakers recap. So the Lakers unfortunately fell to the Dallas Mavericks in overtime. It was actually a double overtime game. It was a pretty exciting matchup. I will be honest, it was back and forth, but we will get into that because not all of that was a good thing. Now, the final score was 119 to 115, but let's talk about the Mavericks just really, really quick. I promise I won't talk about them too long, but I do want to give them a little bit of credit because they were in a pretty similar situation as the Lakers, and now they are currently sitting at fourth with a record of 24-19. So they've definitely picked up the pace and improved, and I can see the Lakers doing the same exact thing because arguably I think the Lakers, while they do have roster holes, have a more complete team than the Dallas Mavericks. But we've talked about this all show, all episode, every episode, all season we've talked about this. The problem the Lakers have is in the third, they usually are outscored. And they've been outscored by 10. They've been outscored by 15. Well, in this game, they actually outscored Dallas in the third, 28-23. And in the second, and in the fourth. The biggest problem, scoring-wise, was in the first. Dallas outscored LA 36-22. It was a very slow start. I don't want to say if they had a better start right off the bat, I think they would have won the game because it was a double overtime game. Anything can happen in double overtime. Once it goes to double overtime, the regular game, it doesn't matter. Regular time doesn't matter. It's overtime. That's all that matters. The rest of the game does not matter. So I will say that, do I think it would have made a big difference had they had a better first? I'm not going to sit here and say they would have been guaranteed a win, but I think they would have been in a better spot because the Lakers that played in the second, third, and fourth, had we seen them, especially the Lakers that played in the third and fourth, had we seen them in the first, I think we would have had a better lead and we would have had a better chance of avoiding overtime. Because we are not an overtime-ready team. Oh my God, when we went to overtime, I said, that's it. I almost turned it off right then. I did not because I had a little bit of faith, but I was like, that's it. If the Lakers go to overtime, they are losing. I'm saying that right here and right now. So that is what we saw last night. Obviously, some controversy and some things going on within the game. But before we get to that, I want to look at the individual performances that the Los Angeles Lakers had versus the Mavericks. So when we break down individual performances, obviously LeBron James had himself a pretty good game. He had 24 points, 9 assists, and 16 rebounds in 47 minutes. Obviously, that is high minutes. Of course, you have to bring overtime into account, but LeBron James had himself a pretty good game, and of course, he's on track to break that scoring record, and with that 24-point performance, I think he has to average 23, so he is well on his way. That was a solid performance. The thing I did not like the most about LeBron was how many threes he's still attempting to take. I don't know why he thinks he can shoot that many threes. He has never been that consistent with three-pointers, and he seems to be actually having a very negative season in that category, even more than he has had in the past. So LeBron James is not shooting well from three, and unfortunately he took some very questionable shots and had a very questionable shot selection, but overall he had a solid performance. Juan Tuscan Anderson, I mean, come on, bro. 18 minutes, 4 points, 2 assists, and 3 rebounds. Dude, I could do that. Sign me to a 10-day, bro. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, not a good performance. Toscano Anderson has been one of the biggest disappointments and biggest letdowns on the Lakers team. I can see why the Warriors let him walk. A little bit harsh, but it's true. I can see why the Warriors let him walk. He's not an integral piece to their team. I mean, he was a part of a championship-winning team, but at least what I have seen so far, maybe that's a different system or a different coach or a different everything, but what I've seen so far, Toscano Anderson is not the player that I was hoping he would be for us. I didn't have super high hopes, but I had higher hopes than what I've seen. So I would not be super shocked if we end up letting him walk yet this season. But then looking at Thomas Bryant, this has been a player that has been a really big positive for the Lakers within the last 10 games. And he has really stepped up and kind of done as much as he can do. He's not AD. He's not an all-star center. He came to the Lakers as a player that has dealt with some injuries, a player that's dealt with some criticism, a player that had already been on the Lakers. I didn't have super high hopes, but he has been putting up monster performances. Last night was not really a monster performance, but he had 11 points and 9 rebounds. So honestly, he was still very, very much active out there. There were a couple of crucial rebounds that I would have liked to see him grab that the Dallas Mavericks got instead, and I think that he very well should have been the guy that should have been there to get them. But other than that, I think he had a pretty, decent showing. Dennis Schroeder, 7 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds. Max Christie, 7 points, 0 assists, 5 rebounds.
Russell Westbrook, 28 points, 5 assists, 7 rebounds. I mean, Troy Brown, 8 points, 1 assist, 4 rebounds, and 1 uncalled foul, let's be honest. Wenyen Gabriel, 14 points, no assists, but 7 rebounds. Kendrick Nunn finally did something other than just run. Thank God. I've been waiting for the day he would do that. 12 points, 1 assist, 1 rebound. So, this is what I want to say. First of all, Dennis Schroeder is hot and cold. We know this. We know this about Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder is very much a Lonnie Walker type of player. They're very hot and cold. Very much. I mean, maybe this is Magic Man's assistant. We've got Magic Man, Lonnie Walker, and we have his fabulous assistant, Dennis Schroeder. Because I'm going to be honest, I really am happy that we have Dennis Schroeder, and he's been a big highlight and helped our team piece together that 6-4 record in the last 10 games. But every player has their problems, and he is no exception. And his biggest problem, the biggest problem that I have with Dennis Schroeder is how hot and cold he is. Look at Christie. Christie was our rookie. Christie's our guy. Christie's the rookie that's suiting up for us. I'm not super impressed with that rookie selection. I think that we should have maybe focused more in on, I don't know. I just think that we should have potentially looked into Pippen Jr. a little bit more. Do I think that Shaq's son would have been a good fit to keep him? I don't think that. I don't think we should have kept him. I'm not trying to say that. But I do think that maybe a player such as Scottie Pippen Jr. should have been given more of a look, because I think that he could have performed a lot better than Christie has for us so far. And that's no hate on Christie. Christie's only 19, I believe. Christie's pretty young. Christie has a lot of time to grow in the league, but I'm just worried that we won't get to see that growth because we'll move him before he can grow. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. I think that could be potentially something that could be good. He did have one really, really nice floater shot in that game against the Mavs that looked really, really pretty. And honestly, I do think that he could potentially ramp up his play eventually. But as of now, I just don't see him being that big of a piece for this team. So there's a couple of pieces on that team that I can see us, moving. Kendrick Nunn, again, I joked around earlier. He finally did something other than just run. And I'm saying that because a lot of games, he doesn't even crack 10 points. Kendrick Nunn is a fine player. He was great in Miami. Didn't get to see him at all last year. And I honestly think that's part of the reason that he is playing like he is now. I think that injury, I've given him a hard time, but I think recovering from the injury and just being out for that long could really affect his game and maybe make him play at a level that he was not at before. So hoping that Nunn can figure it out, because I was really, really, really excited before the start of this season to have him healthy and have him back. I really thought he was going to be the truth. I really did. So hopefully he can prove me right and kind of have that bounce back, but it's not really looking good. It's looking like he just wants to run more laps. So hopefully we can figure that out. But all in all, not fantastic performances overall. Westbrook had a great game. LeBron had a pretty solid game. Gabriel had let's give Gabriel a little bit of love. Gabriel had a pretty good game, but he missed some very crucial rebounds. The same with Thomas Bryant. These players are not getting the rebounds that matter. Bryant has gotten some really crucial rebounds in previous games, but last night, about every rebound that he needed to get, he did not get, and same with Gabriel. So kind of a rough showing on that respect, but other than that, as a team, they're not overperforming, they're not underperforming, they're just right in the middle of that. They're not doing anything crazy, but they're still in the mix, and the fact that this team, without Anthony Davis, still fought like this against a 4th-seeded West team is really impressive, and that shows me that this team does have fight. So regardless of what the stat line says, it shows that we have fight, but now we have to look about something that is really, 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 really tough, and we need to look at it, and it'll be hard. It's an image that will potentially leave purple and gold viewers scarred for the rest of their life. Oh, okay, this is a tough one. So, like I said, this is going to be an image that will give Lakers fans nightmares. It'll scar them. I'm going to be honest. I woke up screaming in the middle of the night with night terror about this. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, look at this. So, Troy Brown Jr. pops up a shot after we left Luka way too wide open to tie the game to take us to overtime. We get the ball back. We get one more shot to finish the game before having to go to overtime. Like I have alluded to, overtime equals death for the Lakers, and it will equal death for the Lakers until they can improve as a team overall, until they can finish filling those roster spots, filling those holes, figuring all of their stuff out. Overtime equals death. Overtime is terrifying as a Lakers fan because I know they cannot get it done. Where they are right now, they cannot get it done in overtime. we did have plenty of time to avoid overtime. They kick it to Troy Brown Jr. He pops up a three, and it is, in my opinion, an extremely obvious foul. Here's what I want to say. I did not want the Lakers to shoot that three. I didn't care who it was. The Lakers are not a very solid three-point shooting team, as everybody knows. It doesn't take a basketball genius to know the Lakers are one of the worst teams. I believe as this episode is being recorded, the Lakers are currently 29th for threes in the NBA. So we are not a team that should be shooting threes, especially in clutch moments. I understand, like, at the end of overtime, that's all we could have done. At the end of the actual game, when overtime was all wrapped up and the Lakers had lost, shooting a three was all we could do. But in this moment, I truly believe we should not have gone for a three. I think we should have set it up. Does that mean Darvin Ham can't set up a nice last second, let's win this game play? No, that doesn't mean that. That just means that's not what they did. They went for the three. Troy Brown Jr. got fouled, and they did not call it. I am frustrated. Do I think Troy Brown Jr. would have made this shot with no foul? Not 100%, but I think he would have had a shot. He is one of the players that it's kind of a roulette game with him. He can or he can't, and it's anyone's game. It's anyone's moment. He will make it. He won't make it. He is that player that will leave you guessing, as most Lakers players are doing with three-pointers right now. Even if they're players that you think should have a good shot, they'll leave you guessing. Trust me. So, that being said, he had one of the better shots of making that three-point shot. But I was super, super, super happy when he got fouled because it's like, okay, he didn't make it, but we have 3 free throws. They're not going to have any time. We're going to lock Luka down. That's going to be the game. That was not the case. The refs did not call it. If you watch my other show, Well Beyond the Arc, last episode we talked about how bad the reffing is getting, and this is a perfect example. How do you miss this call? I do not understand. All of the calls that were being called, that was a game with so many fouls, so many turnovers, all of the things that were happening. How is this something you miss? Come on. And it's at the Lakers' home arena, too. Can't we get a little home court advantage out here? Come on now. No. But seriously, look at this. I mean, it is ridiculous. I do not know why they did not call it a foul. I don't understand if they were looking at it purely from a standpoint of wanting to go to overtime to keep the game going, because we've seen that before. We have seen games continue for viewers and for viewership, and we've seen that happen before. Not so much regular season. We've seen a lot of it with playoffs. The refs kind of get on their business, but this is something that, for me, should not have happened. The Lakers should not have been in a situation where they needed to put this shot up and where they needed to miss a foul, go into overtime, and lose in double overtime. The Los Angeles Lakers should have won before this, and they had the chance. They had the chance. You know, the biggest problem was exactly what Troy Brown Jr. is doing in this shot, and that's a three-pointer. LeBron attempted a three-pointer, okay? LeBron James needs to stop shooting three-pointers. He is not a clutch three-point shooter. I don't know who told him he is. LeBron James, you are not a clutch three-point shooter. Stop shooting three-point shooters in clutch time. Do you want to shoot a three-pointer if we're up by 15? Go for it. Do you want to shoot a three? That's Dwight Howard style, baby. Shoot a three-pointer if we're up. That's Dwight Howard style. That's the only three LeBron should be shooting. Is LeBron a better three-point shooter than Dwight Howard? Of course. But LeBron is not clutch. LeBron should not be the guy that takes that shot. And he took several shots within the last few minutes that were all misses. So LeBron needs to stick to what he does best. He's great with mid-range. He's great with driving. He's great with feeding the ball to the outside to get the open shot, which is exactly what happened with that Troy Brown Jr. situation. He tried to set it up. It didn't work. I'm not even going to blame this on Troy Brown Jr. I'm going to blame this on bad reffing because that was 150% a foul. And then there was another foul in second overtime, I believe, or first overtime. I don't remember which one. I'm trying to forget that game already. Whichever overtime it was in, they miss a foul on LeBron James in overtime. Regardless of which overtime it was, it would have made a difference. Overtime was so close. I mean, we were 7-7 in the first and then 7-11 in the second overtime. So overtime was super, super close and hard fought, but that foul that was missed would have gone a long way. So honestly, I can't be super mad at my squad. I was mad last night. I slammed my computer closed. I'll tell you guys what. I was eating my spinach dip. I got this creamy spinach, this Frito spinach dip. I was loving it. I was enjoying my spinach dip. I was enjoying my great Powerade. I was having one heck of a night. And then they lose, and I slammed my computer closed, and I was just like, I'm so done. But I'm going to be honest. The game itself was great. It was hard fought. Do I think that I can blame the refs 100%? Absolutely not, because the Lakers should have never put themselves in an overtime situation. They needed to be smarter. With that, what I will also say is, why was Dennis Schroeder on Luka for that last shot that tied us and made it 106 to bring us to overtime? Why did we not have Westbrook on him? I'm sorry. I don't care who Westbrook was on or who LeBron was on. You need to guard Luka, because realistically, Luka is their guy. No one else is going to make that clutch shot on that team. Luka is that team. That team does have some solid pieces, but Luka is that team. You already know who's going to get the ball in a situation like that. So you either double team him or you don't put Schroeder on him, because Schroeder is a great player, but he is not that player that needs to be on Luka Doncic in the last few seconds. Arguably, I would just put LeBron on him. I know LeBron isn't a guard. I mean, he is a guard essentially, but that's not his official position. But LeBron should have been on Luka, or it should have been Westbrook, or you should have just doubled him. Because even if they get the ball to who Westbrook was on, the chances of them making that shot are very slim. So, biggest problem and malfunction that the Lakers had on their end in clutch was all the pointless threes they tried to shoot that did not work, and then also that leaving Luka open. That's what made me mad. The rest was on the refs, because it was a hard-fought game. It was a competitive game. We are two pretty evenly matched teams, and in the end, we just got outmatched. And the refs decided that they didn't want the Lakers to win last night. So, unfortunately, the reffing is a problem in the NBA. As you all know, it's been a problem for a while, but it only seems to be getting worse. They call the things that they shouldn't call, and they don't call the things that they should. So, that was a situation and an example of that last night. But let's move on to a more positive note, because there is a certain Los Angeles Laker. We talked about this last time, but we're going to be talking about this again. There is a certain Los Angeles Laker who might be rumored to be making a return to the team. Let's talk about that next. So, last episode, you guys will remember we talked about a former ex-Laker, Kyle Kuzma, former NBA champion, current Wizard, having himself a pretty solid season, having himself a pretty good showing like we talked about. But there is another Laker out there, a former Los Angeles Laker, that has got me interested and has me scratching the beard a little bit, wondering what could happen. And that would be a current Chicago Bull, the greatest Chicago Bull of all time. And no, I'm not talking about Lonzo Ball. I'm not talking about Triple B's, I'm the man, level up, I'm Super Saiyan. I don't know if that's how it goes. He had a rap song. I'm going to be honest. Lonzo Ball released rap music when I was in high school, and I listened to all of it. And one of it was called I don't know. I think Triple B's, I'm the man. I don't know. Who knows? Either way, go listen to Lonzo Ball's music. He's not playing on the court right now. He could use all the support he could get. But no, it is not Lonzo Ball. It is Alex Caruso. The Caruso. Oh my gosh. Alex Caruso in his headband and all his glory. He is absolutely that guy. I love him. I love Alex Caruso. I think that he was a bright spot from the moment he stepped on the court to LA to the time that he unfortunately left. He was a bright spot. He was a player that we needed to retain. We absolutely 155% needed to retain Alex Caruso. And we didn't. We didn't retain any of the players we needed to. But the question now is, would getting Caruso back make sense? Is he a player that I can really see suiting up? Let's dive into it. So looking at Alex Caruso for who he really is, who has he been in his career? Again, I don't think you can always rely just on statistics, but I think that's a great showing of who a player really is, especially when they've played for a team already. So looking at he got his start in LA in 2017. Had a decent rookie season. He was really under the radar, but what you will notice is the biggest factor and the biggest telling factor in the fact that he really progressed quickly. I don't think he came to the league being the player he is now, but I think he very much progressed as a Laker, because his next season, the following 2018-19 season, his points jumped from 3.6 to 9.2. That is a huge jump, and his other numbers follow as well. So I'm going to say this right now. I think Caruso had a huge jump, even just year 1 to year 2, and to me, that showed me that he was a player that would help us win. Of course, we did not have a successful season in the 18-19 season, but still, seeing the success on his end, it was a really big high point and a really big moment where I was like, we could really be a real deal. We could be the real deal. We could be a team that gives some players and some teams some problems. So that was a showing. Then, of course, jumping to the AD LeBron era when it began in 2019-2020, you will see his numbers drop a slight bit again. And again, that is because of the addition of Anthony Davis and the progression of LeBron James in his role in the team. He didn't have his role set his first year because that was just kind of a lost year. Not as lost as last season, but it was still a lost season for LeBron and for the Lakers. So I think that LeBron didn't fully have his role and his where he was going to be at set until that 2019-2020 season. But that being said, even though Caruso's numbers went down, he was still a player that was making things happen. And if you watched the NBA playoffs, you will know that Alex Caruso was a big factor in us winning that championship. He was a large factor, and a lot of people don't want to give him credit for that, but he was a huge piece in us winning that championship and carrying us, in certain moments through the playoffs. He was a great momentum piece. I will say that Caruso is a momentum piece. Caruso is a player that can build your team's momentum up, and he can get your team back into games, both morally and actually game-wise. So I just think that showed, even though his numbers decreased. And then next season, we look at the 2020-2021 season. It was his last season as a Laker. His numbers jump up mainly because there was a lot of injuries. The Lakers were ridden with injuries. LeBron went down, AD went down, other players were going down as well. And so Caruso kind of had to cover the workload, and he did a great job. I will credit, I know we didn't do great in the playoffs. We were bounced in round one by the Suns, but I would credit us even making the playoffs to Caruso. Caruso was a highlight and a bright spot, and I truly think that Alex Caruso was a big reason we were brought through the regular season as we were and still had a chance to be in the playoffs. So, of course, as you all know, after that, we moved on because Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka think that they know better and think that they know what's going on, but they really don't. I have no indication that they do, especially now with how the team has gone the last few seasons. We'll get into that later, but we have a statistic that is mind-blowing. I can't even believe it's real. I'm going to be honest. It is just mind-blowing. So we'll get into that later. I'll get on my soapbox about that later. But as of now, again, as you know, that he went to Chicago and had a great season last season. He had his best season he's ever had as a whole. Again, he didn't reach his highest scoring average because his highest scoring was 9.2 in his second season, but he has a 7.4, and that is solid, matched up with other great statistics as well. He's really doing it all for the Bulls last season, and he was a big highlight in that team. They looked like a team that could potentially be a contender. Unfortunately, we know how that went come playoff time, but he looked great. And then so far this season, again, his numbers have decreased a slight bit, but they are still solid. He is showing that he is a player that is a solid role player. In my opinion, he has solidified himself as a option A role player.
So taking all of this into account, I 100% believe that Alex Caruso would be a solid player to bring back. Now, the question is, the package that he is potentially going to be in would include another player, and that player would be a Mr. Zach LaVine. So here's what I want to say. It excites me that it looks like we might be getting Zach LaVine. But it excites me almost more that we would get Caruso back, because I think Caruso is a player that understands what it takes to be a Laker and what it takes to win as a Laker. So I would love this trade for both of them, of course, but I really honestly am looking more towards the Caruso part, and I'm hoping that even if we can't get LaVine, because there's a great chance that all this Bulls talk is just smoke. I mean, it's been going on, I think December 15th. It's almost been a month since they said that they were going to make moves and this and that, and nothing has happened. Usually that's how that goes. We all know that it takes longer than what they usually say, but I don't know. I just think I'm still in a place where I'm not convinced it's not a lot of just smoke. I think it very well could be legit, but I also am sitting here kind of like, is this still a little bit of, just smoke? But when we look at the actual trade itself, I absolutely think that this would be perfect. My biggest thing is Westbrook is untouchable. We cannot give Westbrook up, and I don't think we will. I think that this organization, as many mistakes as they make, understands the importance of Westbrook for who he is now. Westbrook is a no. Obviously, AD and LeBron are a no, but anybody else on that roster, go for it. I mean, even if say we lost Thomas Bryant, because that might be a player that they would be interested in. That's a player that is super, super skilled and having himself a great season. I don't want to lose him because he adds so much depth to our team. But if that is a player that it would take because of the success he's having, then I say we do it. Because when you think about it, LaVine and, Caruso are both going to come and have an instant impact. They are two players that have been a part of an organization that is pretty much in the same spot as LA. Record wise and just everything wise, success wise, they're pretty much in the same spot. The only thing the Lakers have on the Bulls within the last little bit is they have that championship. Obviously, within the last 5 years, the one thing the Lakers can say on the Bulls is they've won an NBA championship. Wait a second, when's the last time the Bulls won a championship? I'm just kidding. Manoli, if you're listening to this, please don't stop listening because of that. But anyways, all Bulls fans, if any Bulls fans are listening to this, I'm just kidding. I've got no hate for the Bulls. Anyways, so that being said, I am not super convinced that this is a legitimate thing because of the fact that nothing has happened. Do I think there could be potential trade builds being built as we go? This stuff takes time. Trades take time. So that's my only way I'm kind of still believing this is potentially true. But I've got my doubts on this even being legitimate because it has been, again, in 2 more days, it'll have been a month since we were supposed to already have those Bulls players that we never got. So I'm not super convinced. I won't be convinced until I see it because, again, we're the Knicks of the freaking West. We're getting this guy. We're getting this guy. We're getting this guy. Well, we're probably not. But I do think that there's a really good possibility that we could get Caruso. And with that, we will more than likely get another Bulls player. And if it is LaVine, oh my goodness, watch out because he is the only bright spot. Him and Caruso, we would be getting the Bulls 2 bright spots right now, in my opinion. So that'd be great for us. Not great for them because no matter who we give them back, I don't think it will make that big of a difference for this Bulls team because this Bulls team is really struggling. And it's not just they're 1 or 2 pieces off of being a contender. They are on the verge of a rebuild, I guess. I don't know. I just don't understand how you have all that talent. You just brought it on within the last 3 years. And now the word rebuild is coming up. That would be scared if I was a Bulls fan. And a couple of my buddies that are Bulls fans are probably pretty scared. So hopefully the Bulls don't completely blow their roster up. But I will say that this would probably be a trade that would benefit both of us. I would look at it as benefiting us more. I don't even know who we would give them back, but I'm pretty sure a lot of those players that are just running laps for the Lakers would potentially be in that trade package. So, I definitely think it's a possibility. I would love to have Caruso back. I would love to have LaVine back, LaVine at all, but I definitely think there is a great chance we could get Caruso back. I'm not going to say it's going to be right this second, but I do think a reunion with Caruso is very, very possible, and I am all here for it. So, Caruso, if you're out there somewhere in Chicago, somewhere, wherever you are watching this right now, come home, bro. It's time. That being said, we're going to move on to our next segment. Speaking of coming home, I know we talked about all these players that might be coming to the Lakers, but we have a big man who we're going to talk about next. And I'm super excited. I could not be more excited about this player we're going to talk about. There is a potential workout that could be going on as I record this episode with a former Los Angeles Laker, I guess you could call him, in a unique way. We'll get right into it next. Yes, I am talking about DeMarcus Boogie Cousins. It is officially rumored, and it is very closely rumored. I believe that it has almost 100% been confirmed that Boogie Cousins has a workout with Los Angeles. As I record this episode on Friday, January 13th, I believe he should be getting his workout today or tomorrow. And then, of course, they're also working out Myers Leonard, but there's no reason talking about him because we're talking about players that are going to make the Lakers better, not waste of signings. So not really worried about talking about Myers Leonard, but I do want to talk about Boogie Cousins because Boogie Cousins is a player that, again, the Los Angeles Lakers should have retained long term. This will actually carry us into our last conversation topic of the day, but before we go into that, we got to talk about Boogie. Do I think he'll be a great player? Has he been putting up numbers the last few seasons to really look like a player that could make a difference for us? Or is he just another aging center who will not give us what we need? We'll get right into that. So DeMarcus Cousins actually has a pretty unique situation because technically he is a former Laker, but he never actually suited up for the Lakers. He had an opportunity to play for the Lakers back in that 2019-2020 championship season, but unfortunately he ended up being injured the entire season. That he had that Golden State injury and he never ended up playing any minutes. He had that injury coming off of a pretty successful. People honestly forget how successful DeMarcus Cousins was before that Golden State Warriors injury. I mean, even before he was a Golden State Warrior, when he was in New Orleans, he was putting up monster numbers with Laker ADs. So it made perfect sense to go for DeMarcus Cousins. We knew that he had an injury. We knew that we weren't going to be able to play him. And honestly, I thought that the fact that we got him knowing that he was going to be injured for most of the season, if not all of the season, proved that we were in it for the long haul with him and that we were going to have him for the playoffs or even for the next season.
Unfortunately, it looked like he was not going to be ready for the playoffs, so they ended up cutting him. I believe it was in March, or it was before COVID. It was before the shutdown, I believe, or it was directly after. But either way, we cut him. He never ended up playing in the playoffs with us. I don't think he would have been healthy enough to play anyway, but we did not have him on the roster. We ended up cutting him for, I believe it was Dion Waiters and J.R. Smith, who also, I will add, did not really add that much to our team. They were literally with us for the playoffs, and that was it. So I think that the Lakers kind of made a mistake cutting him. I think that they should have tried to retain him, because had they rehabbed him and continued to do that, I think that would have been the better bet than trying to get those guards in. Because again, Waiters and Smith really didn't do anything. Smith took his shirt off and won another championship, and Waiters had a couple of shots in the playoffs, but not really anything that big. So honestly, that's really about it with that. So we got rid of him. We gave him up, and he ended up having a couple other teams he has played for since. So the biggest question is DeMarcus Cousins even worth picking up? A lot of the talking heads, as they like to do, have said that DeMarcus Cousins is washed and DeMarcus Cousins is not going to be able to offer a skill set that is needed by a team that's trying to contend. But I would like to look at even just his last 2 seasons in the NBA. His last season, he played for the Denver Nuggets. He averaged 8.9 points per game. He averaged 0.4 blocks per game, 0.6 steals per game, 1.7 assists per game, and 5.5 rebounds per game. Those are solid numbers. Those are backup center numbers. Those are solid bench numbers. So right off the bat, I really like what he did in Denver. Obviously, Denver had a little bit of a different season last year. Murray was out. They didn't have a lot of success, but Cousins was one of the bright spots. I will say he was under the radar as a bright spot, but I would consider him a bright spot for that team, because without him, they would have fallen under a couple of times. He definitely kept them very even and very level in that position. So DeMarcus Cousins had a great season. And then even the season before that with the Milwaukee Bucks, 9.1 points per game, 0.5 blocks per game, 0.9 steals per game, 1.1 assists per game, and 5.8 rebounds per game. So even just looking at his last 2 seasons, it is very obvious that DeMarcus Cousins is a player that even as he ages, is he putting up, his 27 points, his 11 rebounds, his 3 assists, his 1.4 blocks? No, he's not putting up those numbers he put up in Sacramento or in New Orleans, but he is putting up solid backup numbers. DeMarcus Cousins is not looked at as a starter anymore. DeMarcus Cousins is looked at as a backup, and I would say he has aged gracefully in that position, if I'm going to call it something, because we've seen players like Carmelo Anthony where that was a struggle. We've seen players like Russell Westbrook where that was a struggle. DeMarcus Cousins kind of seamlessly transitioned into that, because I think he understands, especially as a center, when you suffer an injury, especially later in your career, because he was like over, I believe, 10 years into his career, maybe not quite, but he was a solid, he was like 9 years into his career when he got injured, and it's really hard to bounce back from an injury 9 years into your career, but especially as a center. So it's impressive that he has made it back to where he has made it, and I think that he has proved that he is a solid role player. And just imagine DeMarcus Cousins and Russell Westbrook coming off of the freaking bench. That there is no better bench in the NBA. I'm saying this right now. I will say this at this very second. If we sign DeMarcus Cousins, it's over for all y'all. I'm just kidding. Well, I can't say that quite yet, but if we sign DeMarcus Cousins, we are a lot closer to being that team, because especially once we get Anthony Davis back, oh my goodness, watch out. The rest of the league will be put on watch. All right? I'm saying that right now, because Cousins, is he going to put up crazy stats? No, but he is a player that can give you consistent game in and game out performances where he can give you the numbers you need, especially off the bench. But the question also is, would Cousins even be coming off of the bench? I saw one, I don't remember who said it, but one of the talking heads was saying that he thinks if the Lakers get Cousins that he should start. Well, I want to say this right now. At the beginning of the season, before we played any games, I would have said the same thing. I would have said, I want DeMarcus Cousins. I don't want Thomas Bryant. But Thomas Bryant has been on a tear. Thomas Bryant has been on a double-double tear, and he has been looking like a player that could really make a difference. Once we get Anthony Davis back, Anthony Davis and Thomas Bryant matched up, it's going to be a rebound party. So just imagine adding DeMarcus Cousins. You got a 3-headed monster for big men. So that would just be ridiculous. But the question is, would Thomas Bryant start or would DeMarcus Cousins start? I honestly think that there's no way that Thomas Bryant would lose his starting position, because I think Cousins probably is knowingly being brought in as that backup center. But we need that. We need depth at the big men, especially with Anthony Davis, Mr. Glassman, Mr. A. Disney. We need depth at the big men because, realistically, Anthony Davis will probably go down with 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 more injuries this season. So we need to have players that are ready to cover that workload. So DeMarcus Cousins is that guy. Like I said, I believe he is being worked out either as we record this episode or even maybe within the next 24 hours he will be worked out. But I'm hoping, even if it's just a 10-day, get him on a 10-day, get him to the team. I'm hoping they offer him more than a 10-day, but it's the Los Angeles Lakers, so they probably will just offer him a 10-day, unfortunately. But that being said, it is time to get into that. It is time for our final topic of the day. This one might make my blood pressure go up a little bit.
Whew, like I said, this brings us to our final segment. My blood pressure is skyrocketed right now. I don't know if it's the Big Macs and the Taco Bell or if it's the segment, but either way, maybe it's both the Big Macs, the Taco Bell, and the segment. It's all a little bit of everything, whatever. It is what it is. That being said, though, our final segment of the night, I want to address some comments that current NBA analyst Keyshawn Johnson made about LeBron James. He claimed that he's a Laker, but he's not a homegrown Laker. They consider LeBron a rental. We are just renewing the lease. This is what I want to say. There's elements of truth to this. LeBron is not a homegrown Laker. LeBron is the farthest from a homegrown Laker. LeBron has been a Los Angeles Laker far less than he's been a Cav. Will he end up being a Laker more than he was a member of the Heat? Yes, he will. At the end of the day, he will be a Laker longer than he was a member of the Heat. But he will never match what he did in Cleveland. He'll never match his accolades. He'll never match the greatness of that championship that he got, because that championship in Cleveland, in my opinion, is the greatest championship in the history of NBA. It is. It's the greatest, most hard-fought championship in NBA history. So he'll never get that. He'll never be on that level in LA. But there are so many other Los Angeles Lakers. There's even a Laker that you can see up in my purple and gold's background, Mr. Pau Gasol, who is absolutely not a homegrown Laker and actually will have more than likely ended up playing less years as a Laker than LeBron will have. And he is very much highly regarded and highly loved. The problem is not LeBron. The problem is management. And let me explain. I am going to show you a statistic that if it does not make your head spin around and fly off as a Lakers fan, I don't know what will.
Well, this might be the statistic and the graphic that shows it all, in my opinion. So, this is the Lakers, literally just since their 2020 title, they have had 52 players that they have used, the most in the NBA. And to make that even worse, I can't even believe this, 44 have played in one season. Every single Lakers player is a rental. That just seems to be the way Jeanie and Rob are running this team. And I'm going to say something right now. Magic Johnson is the big reason we got LeBron in the first place. And even though he was still not a super big part of the organization, I still credit him being a big part. We got AD as well. Magic Johnson stepped away, said that he wasn't having as much fun. He wanted to blah, 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 all these things. The biggest problem here is he didn't step away from any other of his sports teams that he is a part of. If you don't know, he is a big part of many Los Angeles, California teams. And that being said, he didn't step away from any of those. When he said that he was stepping away from just the Lakers, I kind of expect him to step away from potentially the Dodgers as well, or the Major League Soccer team. But no, not what happened. He is still a part of both of those. So my question that I have is, why just the Lakers? Why just the Lakers? Well, it's obvious why just the Lakers. 52 players used, 44 in one season, under 500 win percentage, and 0 playoff wins. I'm sure Magic Johnson knew where this was headed, because no offense to Jeanie Buss and Rob, but actually all the offense, because they're not the ones for those jobs. At least Rob. Rob is definitely not. Jeanie needs to fire Rob. If Jeanie can fire Rob, if regardless of how the season goes, if Rob can get canned, if Jeanie can be responsible for helping get rid of Rob, I will reconsider what I say about her a little bit. But as a whole, I don't think they are both the best people for this. And the reason I say that is because Jeanie Buss comes from a line of success with Dr. Buss, and she has seen success herself, obviously winning a championship. I cannot take that away from her or discredit that. All of the congratulations are in order for her for that. But the problem is, the reason that Jerry Buss won more than one, the reason he didn't just win one, is because he had a system developed. You would have a core group of players that you would try to retain, and then a bunch of other role players, a bunch of other pieces that you would bring in as you go. But the problem with Jeannie Buss is she literally has not done that. She has kept LeBron and AD. But other than them, most of those players, there's been a turnaround in just the last 3 years since they won a title. Not even 3 years. It hasn't even been 3 years since the Lakers won an NBA title. And they have used 44 players in one season and 52 since then. That is just insane. That just shows that they're just cycling through these players. They're plug and play. That's all this is plug and play. It is not LeBron James's fault. LeBron James deserves to be in a better situation. Anthony Davis deserves to be in a better situation, in the sense that this is a poorly ran organization. For being one of the most iconic organizations in sports history, they are very poorly managed right now. And I don't want to dog on Jeannie too much. I really don't want to dog on her. Rob Pelinka, I will dog on all day, every day. I would literally have a podcast where I would talk about how much I hate Rob Pelinka every single day. I will do a daily show. I will do a 2-hour show daily, and all I do is talk about how much I hate Rob Pelinka. That is how sick of him I am. I'm sick of Rob Pelinka. I am not quite sick of Jeannie Buss yet, because I do think there is still hope, but I have my concerns. And this graphic right here is the biggest source of all of that. So when people say LeBron is just a rental, I say every single player on this Lakers team is just a rental. If anything, LeBron is the most consistent player we have had. He really is. LeBron is the most consistent player that we have had on this Lakers team, because even with all of this BS going on, he has still helped us find a way to stay relevant and helped us find a way to win. And that is what he does. He is great. That is his greatness right there. Even in a poorly ran organization with a poorly operated, poorly made roster, LeBron can get it done. Now, he can't do it all by himself. He shouldn't be expected to. I know that he doesn't want to, and I know that that's definitely not what they want to do to him either. But they need to figure it out. You need to stop doing plug and play. You need to build a core and keep a core. I get it that they didn't make it back to the finals with that team after they won, but that doesn't mean they wouldn't have potentially made it back the next season. Had they retained that core, I think they would have been right back in the finals the next season. But no, they blew the roster up other than a LeBron and a couple other players, and they pulled in all these other aging stars and aging vets. I did like bringing Dwight Howard back, but that's literally the only player that they brought that season that I was super happy about. I was kind of happy with Melo and kind of happy with Westbrook, but not really. So it was a waste of a season. 44 players in one season. That is ridiculous. That is just unreal. The Lakers are inconsistent, and this shows that the most. So the biggest thing going forward that the Lakers need to do is stop doing this plug and play nonsense. Listen, you literally have a cheat code. Not only was your dad one of the greatest owners and greatest people in sports history, you also worked for him and learned all of these things, and I know that you were an intricate part of making the Lakers as good as we are. But Jeannie, come on, please. Stop doing this plug and play nonsense. Build up a core, keep a core, build a team you're confident in, and hold it. Don't just keep plugging players here and there and trading and pickups and free agents. It's too much. It's too much. We all deserve better. All of us.
Well, guys, that brings us to the end of another episode of Purple and Goldstone. Thank you guys so much for checking in. Be sure to subscribe, please. Help this channel continue to grow as I try to grow this show as well. Also, make sure you check out the Connor and Heffernan show. That playoff preview is going to be pretty exciting. Make sure you check that out. And until next time, go Lakers.